This House is in session. Minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, 19th of July 2022 to be confirmed. Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that the aforesaid minutes be confirmed.
The question is that the aforementioned minutes be confirmed. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. The aforementioned minutes are hereby confirmed.
Announcements by Your Honour. Messages from Her Excellency the Governor, the President. Petitions. Papers. Government notices. Private members' notices. Notice of questions. Reports from select committees. First reading of bills. Statements by ministers. Congratulatory and/or obituary speeches, personal explanations, motions for leave of absence, or replies to questions, notice of motion for adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, orders of the day.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of Standing Orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42 subsection 5, 43 and 44 for the remainder of the day's sitting.
Question is that the aforementioned standing orders be suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. The ayes have it. The aforementioned standing orders are hereby suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. Before we commence government business, I wish to acknowledge the presence of Everett Rock, who is visiting from the Cayman Islands. Welcome to this honourable chamber, Mr. Rock. I hope you enjoyed the sitting. Government business is the order of the day.
Order number 6, sir. Move the second reading of the electric reform amendment bill 2022.
Honourable member for St. Joseph.
Mr. Speaker, notice of this bill was given on 18th July 2022. I wish to withdraw that bill, sir, and replace it with a bill slightly amended dated 21st of July 2022.
The question is that the aforementioned bill be withdrawn and be substituted. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it.
Where that noise coming from? Yeah. Here's somebody talking. Wait, hold on. Hold on.
Yeah.
Then the Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Member for Sherski Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to commence this debate very, very clear in my own mind, sir, of the contribution that the University of the West Indies as an institution has made in my own personal life, sir. But I dare say, sir, thousands of Barbadians have benefited from government's continued support of the university. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, sir, that without that investment that was placed in me by the generation before, sir, I am pretty sure that I would not have been able to achieve as quickly the success that I believe that I've been able to achieve in my own personal life, sir, without that investment. And therefore, whilst this debate, sir, is one where the government again will demonstrate its commitment, sir, to building capacity in Barbados in support, sir, of a regional institution that has a very serious mandate, sir, to deliver for all of our people. And today, sir, being the day of significance, I think it really behoves us to appreciate that development, sir, development is like a relay race. It is a relay race, sir, and it requires one generation to the next, sir, to ensure that it does whatever it can do to make their leg, the next leg, sir, a little easier than the previous one. And it starts in this context because, sir, from the founding of this nation, sir, and I know that we will all attend the events this evening, which again, sir, will demonstrate the genesis or the birth of the Barbados Labour Party in a sense, sir. But the development trajectory of this country, sir, is linked inextricably to the rebellion of 1937, to which, sir, we determined that there must be a commitment to enfranchise ordinary Barbadians, sir, by being able to ensure that all and sundry, including those of us, sir, from Peterkin, those from Waterhall Land, sir, or any part of Barbados for that matter, sir, that they can aspire to achieve anything that they wish to because the government of the day would put in place systems to ensure that we can achieve. Whilst it is up to us as individuals, sir, to muster the discipline, to pursue the career or to acquire the skills, sir, in whatever area of expertise that we have developed, it is the environment, sir, that is critical for us to understand that. And I want to preface my statements to say to all in the country, sir, that whilst this specific debate is to support the University of the West Indies, I want to indicate that all tertiary, this discussion really is about all tertiary education, sir, in its broader, in the broadest context. The way that we deliver education, sir, has to change moving forward, sir. And particularly in the post-COVID environment, to let all of our stakeholders be aware that whilst we have pursued formal education in a systematic way, sir, for the last 60, 70 years, COVID has demonstrated, sir, that the delivery of that education system can be disrupted. And technology has advanced to the point, sir, where institutions such as the University of the West Indies that we're speaking to this morning, sir, that they too, despite the strong track record that the university has delivered, not just for Barbados, but for the region, that they too, sir, must get with the times, as we would say it, and transform how they're going to respond to the needs of the 21st century regional citizen in order to ensure that we continue to close the achievement gaps across every strata of our society. And therefore, my submission this morning, sir, is quite heartfelt, because I know and feel, sir, the impact that the university has had on my own life, and I dare say many of us in this space as well as outside in the wider society, sir, the contribution that the investment, let me put it this way, sir, the investment that each generation, sir, determine that it will make things just a little easier, sir, for the next generation to be able to bear and to carry. This resolution this morning, sir, is relatively straightforward, and I will just take a little time to speak on that, because I have a few other things I will wish to address substantively, sir, because this cannot be lost on anybody, sir, that the government of Barbados, led by the Honourable Prime Minister, member for Similka Northeast, continues to support an institution that, whilst itself, sir, is also in transition, as Barbados has had to transition under the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program, that we continue to fundamentally support our citizens being able to access tertiary level education, sir. And I will say to you, sir, and I will share a little anecdote, because I think it's important, sir, and give some perspective. I recall, sir, in 2013, sharing a few thoughts on the fiscal situation in this country, sir. And I recall going to a few people's assemblies, sir, to help the population better understand the fiscal circumstances that this country was being confronted with. And I recall at that time, sir, very much in a very technical-minded focus, because as an economist, sir, having benefited from the investment that persons would have made in me being able to attend the University of West Indies, sir, I felt it was important that I share perspective in terms of the fiscal situation at the time, sir. What I did was not acutely aware of at the particular point in time, sir, and as I stand here, sir, and I repeat it, I had no ambition with respect to seeking political office, sir. And I say that without apology, because as citizens, we all pursue our individual careers, we develop expertise, sir, and people must appreciate that when people speak out, having built a certain level of expertise, there's always a danger, sir, of people being labeled. But I felt it was my responsibility, sir, to let the country be absolutely aware as to what was coming down the road. And I participated in those people's assemblies, sir, because I felt it was important for me to do so as a citizen, having benefited from the investment that was put in me up until that point. Little did I know, sir, that in August or so of 2013, that the then government was going to introduce a policy where it was going to stop paying university fees, sir, for Barbadians. And I recall, sir, that up until that point, as I stand here this morning, sir, looking at you, I had zero interest, sir, zero interest in seeking political office. But I remember when that statement was made in this honorable chamber, sir, I called the then leader of the opposition the next day, sir, the next day. The Honourable Prime Minister now. And I said to her then, and I called her by her first name, sir, and permit me, sir, just to relay verbatim. I said, Mia, I will do whatever I have to do to reverse that policy, sir, because I recognized then that the last government, the Democratic Labour Party government, sir, was about to inflict upon this country almost a mortal wound, sir, that will take almost a generation to recover if not an urgent intervention was put in place. And that signaled, sir, that was my trigger, sir, to get involved in elective politics, because I knew what that would mean for the future of this country. And therefore we set about, sir, with the usual process in order to ensure that the one thing that we know that we could do to benefit Barbadians, sir, for the long term, because inasmuch, sir, as I was able to build a small business and do some work, sir, make some money, the reality is, sir, you must always have an eye on what is coming down the road, sir, and who will take over Barbados in 15 years, in 20 years, sir. Because if you don't lay that platform, sir, then it means that you will be doing harm to this country. And I want to say to you, sir, that it was a sense of pride, as you know, sir, when we sat in this chamber in June of 2018, in the budget, June 11th to be precise, sir, the budget of June 11th, when the Honourable Prime Minister announced that we would reinstate, sir, tuition fees for Barbadian students at the University of West Indies, sir, given what the last government, sir, had done to this country. And I'm going to just take a moment, sir, to share with you and the country, sir, a little bit of information, because I think it must be understood, sir, the cumulative impact. And it is not just about an individual and their particular circumstance, because that is important. But as we, as policymakers, look down the road, sir, we must understand the impact that policy has, not just on the individual lives of Barbadians, and that is important, but overall the capacity building of a nation. And if we don't understand that, yes, there are some issues within certainly education and a whole host of issues that we have to resolve, and we will continue to resolve, sir, we must not lose sight of the mission. And the mission is, in my own mind, sir, is to ensure that we always have citizens who are capable, sir, of stepping up when required in defense of this small country called Barbados. So permit me a moment, sir, just to share at the outset with you just a few numbers, sir, just a few numbers, because it's important. In the academic year, sir, 2012-2013, there were some, and this is just university, this is just KFL campus, sir. KFL campus. There were some 8,776 students enrolled at KFL. 8,776, sir, at KFL. Remember I told you, sir, that in August of 2013 is when they introduced the policy. So that was 2012-2013, academic year. In academic year 2013-14, sir, whilst people have already, obviously, studying, the enrollment then was 8,634 students at KFL. In 2014-15, sir, enrollment dropped to 6,862. The year after the announcement of that policy, sir, because obviously, sir, if you're in it, you can try and finish. But that meant, sir, that 1,771 persons less were enrolled at KFL campus, sir. Let's talk about KFL. KFL campus, pursuing undergraduate studies. But, sir, it didn't stop there, you know. It didn't stop there. It didn't stop there. The next year, the enrollment dropped to 6,065 students. The following year, sir, 5,507 students were enrolled, sir. And at the minimum, sir, in 2017-18, 5,161. That means, sir, that by the time we came to office, sir, there were 3,473 less students in that year enrolled at the University of the West Indies, Clearfield, because of that policy, sir. Because of that policy. Now, we came to office, as I said, sir, in June, and we said that from the next, it was June 2018, so obviously university students had just finished their exams. We announced that we would reintroduce the payment of tuition fees, obviously from the upcoming academic year. And therefore, we started to see almost immediately, sir, enrollment then start to pick up. But, so for 2017-18, sir, the enrollment at the University of West Indies was 5,000, Clearfield, remember this is Clearfield only, 5,563 students, sir. And let me take a moment here, sir, just to relay something that just came to me a few weeks ago, having attended a function, because I think it's important that, as I said, whilst as policymakers, we've been elected, sir, by our constituents to serve their interests, which we do, sir. We make policy on behalf of the people, sir. But it is oftentimes, sir, you set policy almost sometimes, sir, with all that has happened in the last 4 years, sir, we've been focused on helping people to survive and all of these things, sir, in a very stressed environment. But I attended a function about 4 weeks ago, sir. And when I got to the door, I was greeted by a young man. And he said to me, sir, Minister, you don't know me, but you had a conversation with my mother in August of 2018. And you assured her that the fees would be paid because he was going to study, sir, at Mona. As he was relaying the conversation to me, sir, I do remember the conversation. But it was just one of those moments, sir, in discharging your duty. I remember I was in between meetings. I was actually at my desk. The telephone rang. I picked it up because my secretary had gone down the corridor to check on something for me. I picked up the phone and I spoke with his mother. And her concern at that particular point in time, having announced in June of 2018 that we will reinstate the fees, her concern was just to ascertain whether or not, sir, the government, because this is the government, let me make this point first, whether the government will actually pay the fees. That's what the lady asked me, sir. Now, sir, you would appreciate that having taken up office at that time, there was a lot of mistrust, distrust about everything that was taking place in the country. We were working hard to repair, in a sense, sir, the faith that the people had placed in us as a Barbados Labour Party government coming to office. But there was still some doubt. I said to the lady, I'm going to call her name, sir. I said, ma'am, this government will honor its commitment to the students of this country because it is the future of Barbados that will depend, sir, on these people being able to achieve the highest level, and there should be no barrier, sir, to them being able to do so. But I had the conversation with her. I spoke to my permanent secretary at the time, because as we were preparing, so obviously through the Ministry of Education, you recall we had done some supplementary, sir, to be able to do that once the announcement was made in June. I don't recall now when we did the supplementaries, but we voted the money, sir, to be able to ensure that the Ministry of Education would pay the fees for all Barbadians. But he said, as he relayed that story to me, sir, he then said to me, Mr. Strong, you are responsible for me and my brother being able to go to university, such that now, 4 years later, someone that I had known is not a constituent, but is a Barbadian, sir, is saying to me that I was responsible for him and his brother being able to pursue their tertiary education and now to become productive citizens in this country. Now, sir, I don't say that lightly, and obviously I was completely taken aback because once I recalled the conversation, it demonstrated to me why policy matters, sir. Because there are thousands of young people like that across this country right now who haven't had the opportunity, is now giving back, even though, yes, the economy, sir, because of COVID-19 is tough, is now able to give back. And we must continue our commitment, sir, absolutely, to ensure that we can help the University of the West Indies honor its mandate to all citizens of the region, but certainly those in Barbados, to be able to receive a world-class education, sir. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, the University of West Indies produces, it has its issues, yes, but I tell you, Mr. Speaker, world-class education. World-class. And we should not doubt it at all. We must always seek to improve, but the university delivers world-class education for our citizens. So when he said that to me, sir, and I went to the function, sir, with a different, obviously with a specific purpose in mind, but that floored me, sir. And I remember, sir, I was feeling a little weary and tired after a long day, and I went to the function because I promised I would go, and it was hectic. And I left the function, sir, and I went home and I put in an extra 2 hours of work, sir, simply because of that. I would just think, my mind was just going, sir, because that touched me deeply, sir. And I said to that young man, I thank you for the kind words, but this is what I want you to do. I want you to make sure that in 10 or 15 years' time, when you have developed a certain level of experience, that you remember and advocate that we continue this journey, sir, of developing our people. Because inasmuch as we may have individual success, sir, unless we understand the connections that we have with each other and be there for each other, sir, then there may be some who may come with a different view in a slightly different way in a few years' time that has a much more deleterious impact on this country than what perhaps we've seen before. And therefore, whilst I'm hearing noises about people forming committees and all kinds of things, we must let the people know, sir, we must let the people know what has happened to this country and resolve within ourselves that we will never ever let it happen again, sir. We will commit to improving our systems, but we cannot, sir, afford to have resources, whether physical, human, financial, or otherwise, sir. We simply cannot afford to have our resources not efficiently deployed for the betterment, sir, of this country. Now, sir, the next academic year, which is 1920, enrollment then went back up, sir, to 6,164. Then 2020, 21, sir, 6,668. And now, sir, 2021, 22, 6,735. Now, sir, it is clear that we have not yet reached the levels pre the implementation of that policy. So today, sir, the enrollment is 1,899 less than it was when the Democratic Labour Party, sir, introduced that very bad policy that affected thousands of young people. And by my calculation, sir, we are just about 20,346 students short who could not access education because of that policy of the Democratic Labour Party, sir. And I don't say so, sir, lightly, because if you understand and appreciate, sir, that if there were 20,000 people who either had a dropout, couldn't afford to go, sir, and even though, as we have reinstated the policy, you're clearly seeing that it's still going to take some time, sir, to build back up the enrollment with respect to and this is just, remember I said, sir, this is just K-Field. This is just K-Field. It's going to take some time to build back that level of enrollment. You understand, sir, the deficit that has been created by the Democratic Labour Party in this country by having 20,000 people approximately, sir, who did not avail themselves or could not avail themselves of that access to education because of the circumstance, sir. It's plain wicked, sir. Plain wicked. And I hope that the people of this country never forget what has been done to this country and what, as we continue to push, sir, for a rapid recovery, that you understand how flawed policy, sir, can create a drag, not just fiscally, sir, but certainly on the individual lives, on the households, sir, in this country. And I hope, sir, that as we continue our efforts here to be able to ensure that we can rebuild Barbados in a very robust way, that the people appreciate, sir, that the decisions that we take as government, we always have the choice how to spend money, sir. And you can never spend money badly, sir, when you're investing in your future, sir. And when you have such a disincentive, as this policy was, sir, on the impact of Barbados, then you will understand that we are still going to have to deal with this, sir, for years to come. For years to come. And it is something that we must confront and be open and honest about because, you know, sir, we, growing up, my grandmother always told me, boy, go to school and learn. Go to school and learn. Go to school and learn. And the Democratic Labour Party, sir, and what must be said, sir, and it will say, when a fella went to school and learned, sir, he could go, not all of us learn at the same pace, sir. You could go and say to a fella or a girl, listen, look, come and do this little course here, and you get a skill and get through, sir. When you had a situation now where the Democratic Labour Party, sir, destroyed the belief that education was the way forward, sir, because when, as we would say, sir, bright fellas and bright girls, sir, suddenly couldn't afford to go to university, you had to go and sit down, sir, in a sense, in the environs, and you're no longer an inspiration, sir, to say to others who necessarily didn't have as much CXCs as you to believe that you could tell them, well, you can still come and do a little course or two, which is still true. It's still true. But because that influence, sir, that influence was removed, created other problems, sir, in the country. And I hope, sir, that all of those young people who have been able to re-enroll at the university, and that's part of the reason why we had the Give Back program, sir, because it's important for all of us to appreciate that as much as we may succeed, and I put that in quotation marks, sir, we have a responsibility to ensure that we can pull along with us those who are not running at the same pace as us, sir, to ensure that we have maximum capacity being built in this country and that people can have access to opportunities just like us. And that's why I said at the beginning, sir, this particular discussion this morning, I hope will be placed in a context that we as a government intend, sir, to continue to support not just the reform within education, but to avail Barbadians of which is being done with the National Transformation Initiative, sir, a wide range of opportunities for training and acquiring new skills, sir, because we accept that education, sir, can also be delivered in non-traditional ways, where people can acquire skills in non-traditional ways, sir. And I encourage all Barbadians to enroll with the National Transformation Initiative and see what skills are available for them to be able to take up, sir. Because at the end of the day, sir, we must work with our citizens to move them, in a sense, sir, from an environment where, as perpetuated by the last government, where there almost was a belief amongst them that education was no longer worth pursuing for the ordinary citizen. Yes, we have some reforms to complete within the system, but for ordinary citizens, sir, of which there are still many in the context of development purposes, access to education, or quality education, sir, and the way that it is delivered still remains, sir, a credible way out of poverty. And therefore, we want to continue to commit, sir, to providing the resources for education in this country, but accepting, sir, that as things are changing, the mode within which education is being delivered also needs to change, and therefore that's the context in which, sir, this regional transformation program of the University of West Indies is important. And so it's not simply, sir, a discussion about whether or not it costs this or it costs that, because it's the cumulative impact over time, sir, over time, that makes the difference with respect to the lives, sir, the lives of ordinary Barbadians. Now, sir, you would recall that this government, coming to office, indicated that we will modernize and digitize, sir, all of our processes. It's going to take some time. There's going to be a little bit of churn and as I think the fancy word, sir, is change management. Because obviously the public officials have to change the way that they do things. The public, in responding to the way that things are being changed and move online, must equally understand and be a critical part of that change. And therefore, the University of West Indies, sir, being a significant beneficiary of public resources, equally, sir, serving a regional public, equally, sir, has to modernize its systems in order to ensure that it can better serve not just the students, but the community in which the university is operating. And therefore, this resolution this morning, sir, is to support the University of West Indies being able to borrow $12 million, $6 million US, $12 million, sir, from the Caribbean Development Bank, sir, to pursue its modernization efforts at the University of the West Indies. And this, sir, we believe will complement what the government here in Barbados is doing, but I believe, sir, others in the region will be pursuing as well. So the government of Barbados today, sir, and this is just for us to guarantee $1 million US, sir, out of, or $2 million out of the overall loan. $1 million also is being guaranteed by the government of Antigua and Barbuda, sir. And $4 million out of the $4 million US, sir, is being guaranteed by Sagicor Financial Corporation. And let me pause here and say, sir, that this is the kind of corporate support in terms of guaranteeing the loan to the University of West Indies that we would like to find and work with the private sector to be able to ensure that certainly our regional institutions, but some of these critical agencies will be able to access financing in order to ensure that they can achieve what they need to achieve for the benefit of all of our citizens. So I really want to thank Sagicor, sir, for agreeing to guarantee $4 million out of the $6 million US loan, because that allows us to be able to free up resources, obviously, to be able to do other things. Now, sir, this is a guarantee, which means that in the event that the university can't pay, then obviously, between the three of us, would have to honor the payments, but the university will be able to borrow the money from the Caribbean Development Bank, execute its transformation program, and allow us then to put the University of West Indies, sir, certainly in a post-COVID environment, to rapidly upgrade its systems over the course of the next 2 years in order to ensure that it can better serve, sir, the regional public, serve Barbadians, and any students globally, sir, for that matter, that they may wish to offer those educational services to. Let me say, sir, that you would recall in the budget of this year, the Prime Minister as well indicated that we will reserve 5%, sir, of our renewable energy capacity in the country for regional institutions, of which the University of West Indies is one. Because we also recognize, sir, that in helping the university to be financially resilient, if you like, sir, or on regional institutions not to have to depend on the fiscal situation of governments. We have determined that this is our contribution, if you like, with respect to regional institutions like the university, to be able to get an independent revenue stream, sir, such that they can continue to provide the quality world-class education that it is providing for our citizens without, sir, having to depend solely on regional governments to so do. And therefore, we continue to find, sir, innovative ways of financing institutions like the university, because the truth is, sir, the University of the West Indies proper now, sir, operates in an environment, as you would appreciate, where the regional governments, in a sense, finance the operating side of the entities, and therefore, subject to budgetary constraints from time to time, the university in moving to a different level, which we all expect the university to be able to deliver for our citizens, may sometimes be hamstrung by the fiscal situation of different governments and the ability to contribute. And therefore, this government has put that to the university as part of the funding mechanism. We've vested lands in the university as well, sir, to be able to ensure that their balance sheet is much stronger, to allow the university to be sufficiently independent, sir, of government finances and the variability around government finances, such that the sustainability of the services, the provision of those services that the university is providing to all of our citizens, and we hope that this will be a model, sir, that we can roll out for other regional institutions, and we've done so with some of our state-owned enterprises, that we believe that this is critical in order to ensure that the services being provided to the public by the university is able to be done in a way that makes absolute sense. Let me, at this point, sir, also thank the university itself, sir, because during the pandemic, the university provided significant support, sir, not just to Barbados, but certainly to regional governments with respect to the technical expertise in terms of epidemiology, research and monitoring and tracking, sir. And that's why, sir, the university, as some people may refer to it as an institution on the hill. But, sir, when you are on a hill looking across the horizon, sir, and you see things coming, and you have the capacity to respond, sir, then I think it is incumbent upon all of us to recognize that we can't view the university as although from time to time, some of their professors may make some statements that are clearly, sir, a little out of touch with the average citizen. But the university itself, as an institution, forget about the personalities for a moment, the university as an institution, sir, is capable of supporting any government's agenda by way of policy making, but specifically as it relates to COVID and the way that the support was given by particularly the epidemiology and the like. Without that kind of support, sir, it would have been much more difficult for us to be able to manage COVID in the way that we did if we did not have that expertise readily available to help the government at a particularly critical time to be able to do the appropriate modeling and research and background information, which allowed, I'm sure, the Ministry of Health to actually focus on the nitty-gritty in order to ensure then that the public health response, sir, was as it was. And therefore, I want Barbadians to appreciate that, yes, there are times when some people say some things that you may not agree with, and you've got to accept that is life, sir. That is life. But the institution is very much capable, sir, of supporting government's policy and agenda with its expertise. The university in the community continues to provide a range of educational services, which I would like ordinary citizens to recognize that getting a university degree, I remember the late Prime Minister, late member for St. Peter, had indicated at one point he wanted a graduate in every household. And the truth is, sir, having a graduate in every household is important from the perspective, sir, of ensuring that people continue to realize and believe in the path of education, in being raised out of poverty. Now, that graduate in every household, sir, may be construed as a university graduate, but the reality, there's so many other different tertiary and vocational training opportunities that the graduate in every household, in a sense, has to encompass, sir, people with skills being recognized, certainly with respect to the contribution that they're making in the country. And the truth is, sir, as we know, a lot of people make very a good living in terms of what they do technically. And therefore, we must ensure that our people understand and value that, sir, as there's an old saying that success comes before work only in the dictionary. And therefore, you have to have the discipline, sir. Whatever you do in life, you must have discipline to be successful. You must have discipline to be successful. And we must ensure that as we try to re-engineer a new national consciousness, which we've committed to doing, sir, that we celebrate people, sir, who have the discipline to get up every day and go and do their job well, better than others, and accept that if you, sir, happen to be a better lawyer than me, sir, then it's incumbent upon me to figure out how do I become as good a lawyer as you, or whatever profession people may be in, sir, so that it's not seen that you're competing against one another, but you're building an environment where we want to be excellent, world class, and in becoming world class, it means that I must lift my game. So whatever areas that we are operating in, sir, if I recognize that I am deficient in a specific way, I should be able to come to you, sir, and ask a few questions, and you help me. Because you helping me, sir, don't impact you, because you're already a great lawyer. And therefore,
You want to see the money for it, though, Honourable?
Well, sir, the truth is that mentorship is important, because the connections that we are building in this little rock is important. And I say so in all seriousness, because unless we reach out a hand, sir, and recognize that the development of this country is a relay race, and we must pass the baton, sir, a better baton than the one that we took, almost, because the leg that we have run, sir, we've given it our all, we've improved what we can improve, and we do not hand to the next generation, sir, a baton that is worse than the one that we got. That is as simple, sir, as I can put it. And therefore, it requires all of us, no matter where we are currently in life, to take the time, sir, to avail ourselves of the opportunities that present themselves, and do not fear the change, because it is the fear of the change, sir, that paralyzes a lot of people, regrettably, rather than riding the wave. And I accept, sir, sometimes you ain't sure where the wave can take you, but if you close your eyes, sir, for sure you ain't gonna know where you're going. But if you open your eyes, sir, to the opportunities that exist, and take a chance by investing in yourself confidently, sir, that this government continues to make strategic investments in education. I know that the Honourable Member for St. Philip West will get into a few details which I don't want to cross, but the continued investment and the efforts that we're doing to ensure that we can foster an environment where all Barbadians, sir, all Barbadians, whether you are at school now, or whether you left school and you're thinking about going and getting, whether it's enrollment in the university or any other tertiary institution, or other alternative means of acquiring skills, sir, this government will support and continue to support through the National Transformation Initiative with the Ministry of Education, in order to give people that little boost, sir, to be able to do something different. I must say to Barbadians, though, there's a concept that it's been relayed to me this way, sir, in the context of, and I understand the perspective given the flawed management of the economy by the last administration. Now, I say to people all the time, sir, before you go and spend 3-4 years, sir, studying something, please look down the road to understand what is happening in the space. Because it is not wise, sir, to realize that there's a abundance of resources that makes employment in that specific area difficult, and then expect that when you graduate, sir, that there will be a job willingly available in the space. And therefore, the choice of program that you pursue at the tertiary level is important. But I would say this to the employers in this country, sir, and indeed across the region. The time has come, sir, where having, and in the context of the University of West Indies, anybody, and we aspire to be a developed country, and I know it can sound a bit weird, sir, but you can take any university graduate, sir, as an employer, and put them through a 2-year training program, sir, in your firm. So the person could be doing history, sir, or management, or whatever it is. Put them through a 2-year program, a strong management program, and you can get that person to move from the degree that they studied into something completely different, sir. Now, what that requires, sir, is a level of confidence, not just in yourself, but certainly the employers to recognize that, yes, graduates are being put out. But because someone has a degree in a specific area, it does not mean that that area is the area that you will only work in for the rest of your life. And therefore, as we seek to build out a new Barbados, I'm saying to all graduates, all students, yes, look down the road and see what is out there and what's happening. But remember, sir, remember, the labor market over the past 25, 30 years, sir, has been the most dynamic labor market, I think, in the history of humankind. And therefore, what the University of West Indies must be preparing the students, or any of the tertiary institutions, sir, must be preparing the students to be able to ride the wave, sir. Ride the wave. Because that is how Barbados, sir, is going to be able to navigate the headwinds that we continue to navigate. Because we must accept, sir, that in getting a university degree, it is like a toolbox, sir. And you must be able to reach into the toolbox for whatever tool you may need at the specific point in time to be able to build not just a career, but the contribution that's required of you at the particular point in time. And therefore, this is not just about putting out students with degrees. This is about preparing citizens, sir, to be flexible, to be able to apply the knowledge that they have acquired, sir. Because if we can't apply the knowledge that we have acquired, then we are really not living up to the mandate of being able to hand that baton over, sir, as I indicated earlier. And therefore, this government continues, sir, to be supportive of the University of the West Indies. We are minded that the university continues to operate in an environment that is tough, economically, certainly not just in Barbados, but across the region. This government has been seeking to find solutions to help the university be on a much stronger footing from a financial perspective. And therefore, I'm asking all citizens, all university graduates, sir, to be able to ensure that we work doubly hard in whatever area we are working in today to be able to help transform this country. And do not scoff, sir, at the prospect of giving back to your community. Because, sir, as I told you here, there are 20,000, by my estimation, 20,000 persons, because of the introduction of that policy, based on the levels in 2013-14, that have not, because ordinarily you would expect the enrollment to grow until obviously it tapers off at where it's at. And therefore, we must figure out, sir, how we are going as a country, how we're going to ensure that we re-engage those persons that would ordinarily have gone to the University of the West Indies. I know that the government has already put in place a few programs to be able to help find those persons to get them back on that path. but it requires, sir, a whole of society approach with respect to being able to do that, because without being able to harness that young potential, then you have a situation, sir, where potentially 20,000 young people, and this is just based on university enrollment alone, that 20,000 young people, by my estimation, sir, may very well feel in this country that there's nothing in it for them. And therefore, we must redouble our efforts at all levels of society, sir, to ensure that the future remains bright, that we focus the interventions with respect to getting young people to invest in education, we continue investment in education in young people, but they see it as an opportunity, sir, to help improve their own lives, the lives of their families, in a way, sir, that is sustainable for the country, in order to build out, I think, our commitments not just to the sustainable development goals and the like, but really and truly just to make sure that ordinary citizens, sir, can live a good lifestyle, certainly in this country. And so, sir, this resolution has my absolute full support. It is timely, and I want to urge every citizen, sir, that as we move forward to be able to build out the digitization efforts of the government, that you're saying that we are supporting the efforts with respect to regional institutions like the University of Essex to also do that, and therefore recognize that as change is the only constant, sir, is the only constant, that the digitization efforts certainly of government, the university in this instance, but all of society will now have to be front and center as we emerge, sir, from this post-COVID pandemic, to be able to ensure then that we can assure a full and inclusive, sir, economic recovery. And so, sir, with those very few words, sir, I beg to move that this resolution do now pass.
Honourable Member St. Michael South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. I too rise to support this resolution, sir, that will allow the university to address some of their technological challenges and the deficiencies, sir, that they too have been struggling with, as is the case with many regional organizations, regional institutions, private sector, government, NGOs, sir. And anybody that chooses not to change when everything around them is changing is bound to failure. And sir, this is to be expected, sir. And I commend the government of Barbados for determining that they would wish to support this move as well, sir. And sir, why would a university wish to do something like that at this point in time? I believe that KPhil and Mona and St. Augustine and all the university, the open campus, sir, like any other business, now face such stiff competition, sir. Like most businesses, they wish to be self-sufficient, to be able to project themselves into the future, to protect their assets, and to offer themselves as a viable alternative, sir, in an era where there are no alternatives to anything and everything. And it is incumbent on the university, sir, to adjust or to perish, you know, in the natural order of things, sir. Those organisms that refuse to change do not find themselves existing, sir, after certain events. And in fact, sir, the organizations, the organisms, sir, the biology shows that the ones that are able to adjust, some make the adjustments very slowly over time, as the environment changes over time, or the ones that can adjust immediately after a shock are the ones that are able to project and protect themselves as the future unfolds, sir. And it is the same for all of us. We laughed and we joked when the Cabinet of Barbados, as a public servant many years ago, I used to be involved in writing the cabinet papers. And as a public servant many years ago, I used to be involved in the photocopying the cabinet papers too. And we would have to photocopy 20-something copies of the same paper, 30-something copies of the same paper, so that every person in the cabinet at the time would be able to get a physical copy, sir. And we joked and we laughed about it, and sir, but none of us do it now, because all of us receive our cabinet papers either on our tablets or our computers, but we receive them digitally. Now we too evolve, sir. We joked about the older member, sir, the former member for St. Andrew used to tell me, and all of us really, that he would never be able to do these technology things. And he would laugh all the time, sir, that we try to leave him behind, but then he became au fait with all these things and how to use them and how to do them, and even showing people how to do it, sir. Because all of us must evolve over time. We evolve or we perish. And sir, the university finds itself, sir, in that particular place where it too must evolve or it would perish. And so I look at the document before us and I realize as well that they're going to be training staff and they're going to train the students. They're going to digitize the programs to allow greater online access. And these are important things, sir. And before I say, I will speak about access and what access really means. And of course, sir, if you put yourself in the cybersecurity space, sir, you need to think about cybersecurity. Because the moment you put your stuff online, sir, security becomes an issue. And you have to be able to protect it, sir. And, you know, for many people, they're young people, quarter of my age, sitting down now doing things with computers from wherever they are, sir, with nothing on their mind, nothing on their mind, so much time. All they have to do all day is devise ways to break into your system and then sell it to other people. And, sir, we have to be very careful about our cybersecurity too in the government, as is the case with universities, sir. So I think for any modern business, and university is also a business, that they must also think about increasing their efficiencies, sir. And as it becomes more and more difficult to deliver higher education, sir, they have to think about how do they become relevant to be able to deliver quality education in a way so that people find relevant, sir. And you know, this is a conversation worth having, not only because of the digital deliverance of our education, sir, but the way we talk to people, the way we teach people generally, the way it is difficult for some classes to relate in a classroom, what Marx used to call the hidden curriculum. I'm sure you are more than aware, sir, how education is transferred to people. These are things that I believe we have to be able to consider, and perhaps, I don't know, in another time, maybe we could explore some of these things about how we deliver education. Sorry, the Honourable Prime Minister has always given a story when she visited one school when she was Minister of Education. And in the presence of the principal, another person in the entourage asked one of the students a question, and the student stood there unable to answer, looking like a deer in headlights, not fully understanding the question. And then it was broken down and asked in pure Bajan. The student came alive and was able to respond and answer the question. And you know, that should tell us what happens in the classroom. You have a student who is unable to relate, never heard proper English, and now have to go in a classroom, and the only method for delivering that is via big words, sir, because the bigger the word, the brighter it is. So that is how some of our teachers would choose to teach it. Many of them have been very privileged in my lifetime, sir, to have had teachers who I could only say loved me. And that's the truth. Allow me to say, sir, teachers like Wendy Griffith Watson, who, I don't know if people like that still exist, who looked after me when others thought I was a deviant. She said to me, Kurt, you're too bright. I had teachers, sir, at community college like Trevor Marshall and Miss Phillips, who looked after me, sir. I'm just saying that how we deliver education, whether digital or not, there has to be a conversation about how we relate to the students and how students are asked to understand and asked to accept. I also remember, sir, as a primary school student, being beaten in my hand till it was red and raw because of the way my penmanship ain't the best. It never was and it never will be because of the way I hold the pen. But I remember being beaten in my hand until it was red and raw, and unable to go home and tell my mother, because she too, once the teacher beat you, my mother didn't want to know what you do, you know. You getting beat home too. And I also feel, sir, in this whole conversation about how we deliver education, these are other things. I will talk about corporal punishment another time, but these are things, especially in institutions, sir, that I feel that we have to be able to discuss. And, sir, the provision of accessibility, sir, is going to be very important to me, allowing everybody to be able to access education, sir. And in this particular relationship with the university, sir, the provision of accessibility and assistive technology and software for students with special needs, sir, is involved in this. And that's very important, sir, because we have to be able to cater to all students with special needs, sir, people who are challenged academically in these institutions for all kinds of reasons, because many times we didn't even identify the person had a learning difficulty or deficiency early enough to treat it. And I taught, as you did, sir, I taught at the university for a number of years, for 10 years, sir. And sometimes it took a lot more than being able to just read the book and communicate, sir. Some of our students need help. And to be able to offer assistance to persons with special needs, sir, is going to be important. As you know, we are working on legislation now to make it better for persons with disabilities in Barbados, and I hope to have that legislation in this House, sir, very soon. The other thing, sir, that is written into this agreement that we are funding or helping, sir, to secure is the provision of socially inclusive and gender-responsive customer relationship management. But what does socially inclusive mean? What does gender-responsive mean, sir? I have a view, sir, that we have to get serious about this education thing. And I am grateful to see the moves being made by the Honourable Member for St. Philip West, following on from the Honourable Member for St. Michael South East, sir. The work that this government is doing to make education relevant in the lives of ordinary people. So when I was younger, I know I can no longer legitimately claim youth, but I'm fighting. When I was younger, sir, when I was a boy in the Pine, living in Bottom Close, sir, at the time, there were very few people before me I knew who went to university. That's the truth. There were very few people around me who I could say were university students. And that particular year, it was myself, and I had two other friends also from the Pine, but at different parts of the Pine. We'd walk to school and walk back home. And along the road, sir, almost like superstars, people looking out their house, wondering if you got anything to eat, wondering if you want water, sir, because they understood that our being able to get a university education meant something for the community. And they had the opportunity to change the whole community. They understood that, even if we did not properly understand it at the time. They understood that us being able to go to university meant that the stigma often associated with these areas, sir, the areas that you represent, the areas that I now have the opportunity to represent, and the Honourable Member for St. Michael South, South Central, who shares my border, St. Michael South East, sir, all of us in the St. Michael constituencies and others that we represent, they fully understood, sir, what it means for young people to be able to go to university. And I'm saying all these things, sir, because when we talk about taking away university education, it is not a dollars and cents thing. And clearly it wasn't a common sense thing either. At the end of the day, sir, it is about the potential to disturb and disrupt a social revolution, sir, that was started long before us. It's disrespecting the legacy of a country that was started long before us, causing people who are scattered on the ocean, probably, sir, to wish that their ashes were taken by whales or something, because they could not believe that the government that they led, the philosophy that they held dear, was being, sir, so disrespected by a government, sir. And so when they took it away, it meant many people would not have the opportunity to look through their window and to praise somebody else as they walked to school. Or feel good enough to say, as many a day, sir, I don't have enough money for bus fare. Somebody come and say, I ain't got enough money. Go and ask a man if it is to go to school, sir. There is something marvelous about Barbadian people. Because if they have or if they don't have, and you ask them, sir, to help you so you could get to school, they're going to find it. Even now in our community, sir, I guarantee you that come September, the many students who do not have uniforms or shoes or books, sir, people in the community can come together and find a way to help them out. That's just who we are. And that's what we do. And that is what we expect, sir, of a reasonable Barbadian government, sir. And so I am honored to be a member of this government, sir, that did the reasonable Barbadian thing, sir, when we restored education to people who were seeking higher education, because we knew what it meant for many of those people. So there was a time when education was, to many, inherently good. I mean, you're educated in and of itself was enough. I think, therefore I am. I can think, I'm an educated person, therefore I am. That's all you needed to be back then, sir. Somewhere in the 1600s, French and the others would say so. And we know now, sir, that for many of us, education is not only about, you don't only think therefore you are, sir. Education helps us to move, helps us to be able to go the other. I can guarantee that my children's circumstances are not my own because I had the opportunity to go to university, sir. And I can say so, I know that for a fact. I can guarantee that my circumstances are not the same as my mother's because she guaranteed that I went to university, sir. And this, when we don't connect the social dots, and when we allow people to come and to disrespect all that we are, sir, break up the social fabric of this country, and we don't speak out against it in the harshest possible ways, and we allow them to forget, and to come back now and want to say, this is how you do to education, and this is what you should do, and this. It's almost, sir, the hypocrisy of the moment, sir, is startling. That these same people that kicked down the ladder that they used to get up to the top now want to come and tell us who we are here now doing all that we can do to help ordinary people, to transform a country, sir, to build up the basics, to do the basics, at the same time, sir, as we are trying to look forward. The people who were trying to guarantee that ordinary people would not have that opportunity, sir, are the same people that are keeping the most noise. My mother used to tell me sometimes you gotta ignore the noise. Sometimes you gotta ignore the noise and focus on what it is that you came to do, sir. And so I believe this idea of being socially inclusive is very important. For the members that I serve in Bayville, in Britain Hill, the ones that my colleague, who I share a border with and a very good relationship with, sir, serve in Carrington Village. Those ones, sir, and all over our other constituencies. I take this thing so very seriously, sir, because I know that I would not even be near this place. When I visit Ilara Court, now as a minister, I remind myself, and sometimes my colleague, I lived in the Plain, I used to stand from where I live and look over there at Ilara Court and wonder what happened in that beautiful building, never thinking that in a million years I would be invited in, sir, and policemen greeting me at the door. Education did that, sir. Education did that. And there is no country in the world, sir, that offers the kind of quality and wide and vast access to education like Barbados. You are almost guaranteed, if you choose to have it, sir, and if the circumstances, the social circumstances allow you to benefit, sir, you are almost guaranteed to have access either at a very discounted rate in a nursery, at $20 a week. That has been $20 a week from the time you were manager administration, sir, and before, sir, when you as a social worker was involved in protecting people's children in this country and now as an attorney, sir, and that you were guaranteed that at $20, $80 a pop for a month, and in that $80 you're getting food for your children, sir. I know people are telling us that you shouldn't give, so I have to contain myself because I listen to people talking about not giving children school meals because it can make them look poor, and but most of you born poor though. And most people of color came to this country, sir, against their will, chained in a boat, unless we forget. And some people were able to get certain things, fair enough. But all of us came here, sir, as slaves. Just go back 3 or 4 generations and none of us ain't had nothing, sir. And I am one of the people, sir, let me tell you, I knew the smell of school meals from my classroom. I knew on Mondays that you're going to get the orange. On Tuesdays, you will get a rock cake, sir. And I knew the students who didn't like the rock cakes, too. And before lunch, I would tell them, make sure you have your rock cake so that I would get that, too. And that's the truth. I know, sir, what it meant to be able to get a meal, sir. I know that I am a grown man. I know what it meant for my mother to not have to feed us, sir. 8 children, struggling to feed them. So tell me how it is that people telling me now that it is a shame to give poor people's children food, sir. There ain't no shame in being poor. The only shame is thinking that there's a shame in being poor. And I'm telling you, sir, I am telling you, sir, that the tragedy that is occurring in Barbadian society is this, that many of us who a generation ago, and even sometimes in our brothers and our sisters, but many of us a generation ago were facing poverty, get a little decent job, living from month to month like anybody else, and forgetting. And we are forgetting, sir, and sir, to my mind, that is the real tragedy. So yes, I feel that we must do something to keep the people on Bush Hill safe. Bush Hill is in St. Michael South, just as I would feel that I should do anything for any other area in St. Michael South. I feel that those children, the ladies there, sir, they call some of them, sir, the Jabez ladies, the ones that are registered with Jabez House, sir. They call them Jabez. Those are the ones trying to change their life. Some of them got scholarships and went on to finish schooling. And if you took the time, sir, to be curious, not you, because I know that's who you are, so that you're a social worker, but if people took the time to be curious, sir, and to hear the stories of some of these people who are doing things to feed their children, to make sure that their children do not do the things that they are now doing. Tell me, in what universe could it be wrong, sir, to want to protect these women, sir? And they're not selling services to themselves? We also, sir, have to be cognizant, sir, that through family planning, for years, this government, the other government, the government before that, the government before that, well, family planning was offering services to these ladies on the streets for years. And that if you start to pull back the assistance that government has always been giving, then you run the risk of increasing all kinds of diseases and so on, sir. Because Barbados has taken care of its own. And that, sir, is a part of my constituency. I am appalled that women tell me, sir, when they go on the street for whatever reason, that men feel they have a right to come and take away their money and take away their dignity, sir. That is wrong. And we have to be able to protect all women, sir, regardless of the business that they are in, regardless of the jobs that they pursue, or if it's that they're just taking a stroll. Nobody, sir, can tell me any different. And that is how I feel. I feel strongly about it, sir. And I now also have the legitimacy of saying I'm the minister responsible for gender and for women's affairs. And these things are things to me, sir, that matter, sir. When I was with the Canadian High Commission, sir, I ran a program at the university. It was called SDEC, the Strengthening Distance Education in the Caribbean Project, sir. And through that project, sir, they were talking about expanding education online so that ordinary people can have access, and designing regular courses so that the courses would fit the marketplace, things that the university now is currently aiming to be able to do, sir. And I am glad, sir, to have led that project, sir, because in anything involving education, sir, I feel very passionately about it, sir, because I know education made a difference in all of our lives, sir. I would love to be able, sir, to get some of the young people in my constituency some scholarships to other institutions too, sir. And the honourable member for the city, I mean, him and I work close together. He knows how I feel in relation to a lot of these matters. He would have heard me say, sir, that in the words of John Donne very recently, sir, that any man's death diminishes me. Done. Diminishes me, sir. For I am involved in mankind. Therefore, never send to ask for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. And that, sir, when I feel bad because one of my constituents got murdered in my constituency, and I have to hear people now go on social media and say all kind of disparaging things about people. When I ask myself, sir, in my community, I wonder sometimes how back in the day, sir, women with 17 children, no employment. I mean, the reality is, sir, sometimes women do things that they would never tell their children. It's true, or had to back in the day, that they would never tell their children. And today, sir, people are trading in all kinds of transactions to be able to feed their children. Or is it worse because it's happening in Bushel? Sir? Am I not to feel bad for my constituent? Sir? Should not the University of the West Indies cater to these same people and to their children, sir? That is the reality of this thing. And I hear, sir, a friend of mine who was a member of the other side, sir, the other party, messaged me and told me that I gave legitimacy to the Barbados Labour Party because of my own story, that I gave legitimacy to the BLP, trying to say that the BLP somehow is this machinery that does not service poor people and that my being in it gives it legitimacy. The BLP gave legitimacy to me, sir. And if you look at the history of this great political institution, sir, all of our record has been to service poor people. The history of the Barbados Labour Party, sir, is to service poor people. The record in education is stellar, sir. You could go all through the history, sir, and see what it is that we've done time after time after time, sir. And you know, during the elections, sir, I would pull up the ramblings. I'm not going to do it now. I would pull up the ramblings of the opposition. The former leaders, sir, some of the things that they said when they were taken away. Somebody at some point in this party needs to pull Hansard. Or the utterances in the newspaper. When they were trying to justify making poor people, children pay to go to university, read those speeches or go through the newspaper and read those comments, sir. Some of the most insane things were said trying to justify the unjustifiable. Some of the most insane things trying to justify making poor people, children pay to go to university, sir. And when we said we were going to do it, the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central, when we said we were going to do it, can never happen. There is no way. Cannot be done. And one of the first things this government did, sir, the government that gives me legitimacy, was to make sure poor people, children could go to university, sir, and not have to pay. And, sir, it is in this context, sir, that I speak on these things because I think people have forgotten or pretending that they have forgotten or that people left one place, this place, sir, this side, gone to another side, sir, and then they shift all kind of things up here, like shift too. Because I don't know, sir, how all of a sudden people who had thinking and understood the reality on this side, sir, now they don't understand it all of a sudden, sir. And you know, it bothers me. It bothers me, sir, that at the altar of political expediency, sir, we can sacrifice philosophy, ideology, sir, dignity of ourselves and our constituents, sir, for political expediency. Nobody can tell me, sir, that the former government did not do an injustice on the people of this country, sir. And nobody can tell me that this government, sir, is not righting a wrong, sir. And nobody can tell me that we haven't been loyal and faithful in relation to how we've conducted ourselves in matters pertaining to education, sir. And, sir, I also remember when the current Vice-Chancellor, Pro-Vice-Chancellor of the University, Sir Hilary Beckles, sir, allow me to say the name, sir, when he came into office and he came up with a AAA strategy at the university. I noticed because I was working with the Canadians at the time. And he said, sir, that in terms of access, in terms of being able to make sure that people have greater access and the possibility of wealth creation, there were 3 A's. Access, sir, alignment, to make sure that you could align the university, sir, with the society and with the economy, and agility, because you have to be agile, sir, and able to move around, sir, and to take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves. Access, alignment, and agility. Things that I think that we should all do, really. You know, make our institutions more accessible. Align them, sir, to the realities of people. And be agile, because our smallness should really make us nimble. But sometimes, sir, with the bureaucracy that we have to deal with, sometimes I wonder, sir, I tell you sometimes, you know, people come back sometimes and they say, Minister, you didn't do so-and-so, or the government didn't do so-and-so, but you set this thing in train. And the bureaucracy sometimes can be so stifling. That is why we are trying to reform the system. And being able to reform, sir, is going to be one of the important things for us, sir. And at the end of the day, sir, a lot of what we're doing, sir, has to be about more than words. And in the Ministry of People Empowerment, sir, for me, we have to be able to protect ordinary people in Barbados, sir. And for us to be able to do that, sir, we have to be able to align the work of either the university directly or the persons who are at the university with the work that we are doing in our ministries and with our government, sir. And in the Ministry of People Empowerment, sir, we are doing a lot of things to be able to strengthen the social fabric of the country, sir. But particularly, we're doing this geospatial mapping, sir, with some brains at the university, sir, that will allow us to be able to look at social services, sir, and their accessibility. And what we're trying to do, sir, is to plot the residences of all the people who are involved in the social services, so that I want to know where they live. I want to know where they are. I want to know where the persons with disabilities live. I want to know, the Honourable Member for the City, sir, has taken lead in doing the 1,000 Family Project, sir. He wants to know where these families are. And to be able to ensure, sir, that we know where the poverty exists. But further than that, sir, we want to know, what are the routes? Are they bus routes? What's the likelihood of this area being impacted, sir? So we're overlaying that with the National Coastal Risk Information Planning Platform that tells us where risk is most likely. And to be able to say, sir, that these people live here, these are the ages, the information disaggregated by sex, sir, by age, and to use that level of information, sir, because unless you start thinking about digitalization and digitization in government now, you're wasting time. And to be able to know where all these people are, sir, not because you want to know anybody's business, because I know somebody can go and say no. The ministers say they want to know where people live, and that the government, because somebody is always up to some mischief, the government wants to use the information to do something that they shouldn't do. We want to use the digital ID cards, Honourable Member for St. Michael North, to do things that nobody has any interest in doing. And they go online, sir. There was a philosopher, sir, who said, nothing is so strongly believed as the things we least know. And people who don't understand go online and say some of the strangest things. And then what shocks me is that people who should know better start to believe them. And so I am not saying that we want to know where people live for any other purpose than to ensure that we could deliver more efficient, more effective services to the persons who need those services. Or that in the event of a disaster, sir, because many people forget the old. Sir, when I speak and I look at you in the chair, I say, Mr. Speaker, sir, because I have to. But I know in these things, sir, you are well-learned and not only well-learned, but also well-practiced. But at the end of the day, sir, people forget the elderly, they forget persons with disabilities, sir. That is why I want to know where they are. So that is that we can save them, sir. And we're working with the university to do that. So as I close, it is important, sir, for the university to stay relevant. It is important, sir, for the university, as all universities do, to generate new knowledge. It is important, sir, for the university to teach and to train our young people, sir. It is important for the government to continue to support the university, sir, as this particular Barbados Civil Party government has done, sir. When the former government did not do it. This Barbados Civil Party government did it, sir. And, sir, I therefore support this $2 million security, sir. And I support the university overall in all that they do, sir. I watch the vision. Sometimes I say we got so lucky at the right time. I watch the vision, sir, the Pro-Vice Chancellor. I used to think about the vision of the former Prime Minister, Owen Arthur, and I remember, sir, when we named the building the Albar Center for Creative Imagination, there were members in the Labour Party, one in particular, a good friend of mine who is now deceased, my former chairman, who said to me, sir, at the time, that he should not name anything after Earl Barrow. And I remember Owen Arthur's former Prime Minister, Arthur, sir, the former member for St. Peter, sir, saying to him, sir, it was just about 3 or 4 of us in the conversation, saying to him, sir, that we must never be afraid to give credit where credit is due, sir. And I think about his vision, the vision of the Pro-Vice Chancellor, the vision of the current Prime Minister, vision, when I listen to the members in the cabinet, sir, my members who are not yet in cabinet, sir, when I listen to the party, when I listen to the young people, sir, I feel so fortunate to be in this government at this time. And I know, sir, it is a duty, but it is also a privilege to have the opportunity to lead the social services sector at this time. And I therefore, sir, commit myself to continuing to do for the people in this country what I set out to do, sir. And I give this resolution, sir, my fullest support. Thank you, sir.
Honourable Member for St. James South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and let me give thanks to the previous speakers who have spoken so well on what this university has meant for us as a nation, what it has meant for us as a people, and the transformative role it has been playing. Indeed, sir, a university really is not just an educational institution, but a university, well positioned, can be an economic weapon, can be an economic tool. And I too can relate to the human stories of what it has done for people, ordinary people in this country. Our restoration of the access to university education has meant a lot to families. And even to this day, you still have constituents who will say to you, who will share with you what it has meant for them to be able to get their young back into university. I remember we had shared in my previous life, we had done some sessions, and it had really motivated a young lady to get up and go back to complete her education. She was working at that time as a housekeeper in a hotel. And she felt motivated to go back. And she enrolled in university because there was a university for her to go to. That when her desire to fulfill her life was stirred, that there was some place for her to go to make that happen. And she not only went back to university to study, she took 5 siblings with her. Some were at university with her, some had enrolled at the BCC. And this made a difference to that family and to many other families because there was a university she could go to and that she could improve herself. From the perspective of the Ministry of Foreign Trade and the Ministry of Business, a university is important because it's a transformative tool for building a strong economy. And that is why we must continue this journey of transformation, why this government must continue the work of support, why we must ensure that we are able to assist with resources and opportunities to help this university to achieve its goal, because achieving the goal of being a world-class, globalized university is going to take Barbados with it on that platform, and that is why it must continue. What are the economic goals that a university can provide for a country? One of the things that it does, and this is especially true for Barbados, we're small, you have 300,000 people, but you have people who want to experience a lifestyle that they're able to see on television, a lifestyle where they expect to live as well as most people in the developed world. And the only way you can do that with 300,000 people, Mr. Speaker, is to be able to attract the types of jobs that give people the level of salary that will allow them to command that level of living, that standard of living. And that can only happen if you make both technical and university education available to that population. Why? It means we're able to build a cadre of human resources within the country that allows us then to be able to attract investment that provides jobs at a particular level. Otherwise, you will consign your population to low-paying jobs. And low-paying jobs will not allow people to raise their families. It will not allow them to be able to fulfill the desires of their family members. That can only be fulfilled if we're able to provide people with the level of education and skills that they can either pursue entrepreneurship, or they can pursue jobs, or they can market their skills and their knowledge far and wide across the globe. And that has to be driven by a strong tertiary education program, which I'm happy to say that this government is pushing, and the Honourable Member for St. Philip West is doing. We are very pleased with the efforts, and I want to congratulate the Honourable Member for the work in the SUN program, the Summer Nutrition Program. I am very, very happy with what I have heard and seen, and it is to be congratulated. But sir, one of the things, along with allowing you to attract a level of investment because you have the cadre of students who can provide the skills that companies use, it also helps us because that higher earning power by your graduates also increases government revenues. It means then that government can protect the level of social services which Barbadians take for granted. That would not at all be possible if we did not have the earning capacity which we see in this country to be able to provide roads, free health care, free education, the postal services, all the other services which we offer and that we take for granted that people even in the developed world have to pay for. We are able to provide it free to our people because we have been able to build a workforce that can command salaries that can support government revenues through the taxes which they pay. So this guarantee of $2 million to assist the university to continue its journey to become a world-class, globalized type institution is going to be important. If you understand the role of universities in a country, even if you go back to the past, Mr. Speaker, countries that were renowned, many of them gained it not just from military might, they gained it because of the level of scholarship that existed. Whether you were talking about Greece, whether you were talking about Ethiopia, that university and education is one of the ways in which a company builds its brand and secures a place in the world. Right now, there are universities in the United States who build the bulk of their revenue from international students. But how do they attract international students? By being able to offer a level of scholarship, a range of subjects that attracts people from across the world who want to be able to study and to succeed and to have the distinction of being able to say, I went to Harvard, I went to Oxford. And this is where the University of the West Indies wants to go. They want to be able to rank in the top levels of universities across the world to be able to build that reputation. That is what will help us build out a Barbados that is competitive. It is very important to our economic and trade policy. So you will see that various governments, and in particular the Barbados Labour Party, whether it was under the former Honourable Member for St. Peter, or currently under the current leadership of the member for St. Michael North East, that there is a level of support for the actions and initiatives which the university undertakes, because we recognize that it is important for us to partner with them. Why? Because this government is not only working for today, we are also planning for tomorrow. And the university is an important part of that transformation plan and very much a part of our tomorrow. So where is UE on its journey to being world class and to becoming a global institution? It is one of the top 600 universities in the world, and there are over 30,000 universities worldwide. And they actually rank in 2021 and 22 as part of the top 1.5% of universities in the world. That is an accomplishment that must be celebrated, that must be known, that Barbadians and West Indians understand that their university is one that ranks very, very high in the world. It is important because top universities not only can earn money from international students, there's some that earn as much as 100 million. the universities in the United States earn tens of billions of dollars in fees from international students and in the research which they develop. There are some individual universities that earn in excess of $50 million from the research by solving the problems of their nation. And this is the role that the UWI needs to be playing and wants to play in this country. One of the things that they've started to do is to seek to build out their research capability. But to get there, they're going to need more funding. They're going to need more assistance in order to build the capacity. Because what a university does, it studies its society, identifies the problems, and then focuses the attention of the students in the various disciplines to come up with solutions to those problems. And that is why it is absolutely necessary for a university to work hand in glove with both the private and public sectors in order to identify, in order to experiment, and to be able to come up with the solutions which then become marketable for us. Not only here within Barbados, not only here in CARICOM, but it will provide solutions for other developing nations across the world. That's the point. Many of the problems that are being studied internationally in international universities are studied based on what is going on in the developed world. Yes, there is some attention to what is happening in the developing world, but the developing nations of the world need universities that focus on their specific issues, that develop scholarship around the realities of what we face. And that is why our university and its growth is going to be important to be able to help us to solve national and regional problems and then take those solutions and earn money from it by being able to market those solutions to other parts of the world that have problems common to us. Now, one of the things that I have looked forward to is I believe the university can also help us with tourism. One of the favorite things for a lot of students to enjoy in the United States is to often take a 4 or 6 week period of taking up summer school in other countries where they go to a university that is accredited and they're able to spend the summer there to have a cultural experience which then forms part of their training for their own degree. And this is something that is extremely popular that I believe that Barbados could excel at. We have a wonderful climate. We're a tourism destination. We can offer cultural experiences, but more importantly, we have present here in the Caribbean a university campus that is internationally accredited and therefore can work with other universities to offer these summer programs which will allow us to earn a student as a visitor for at least 4 to 6 weeks. And why is something like that important? Barbados has for a long time had an older tourism population. We've had people who would have started with us when they were young and they brought their families, and now they're in their older years and they're beginning to go away from us because death is taking them from us. So we have to look to attract younger people so that we can keep a sustainable tourism product. And a university can help you to do that by being able to offer a summer program that is internationally recognized, and you will be able to capture a new generation of young people who will want to make Barbados their second home, just as the previous generations did. So any investment in our university, any investment in helping us to make it a powerful economic weapon is both visionary and exemplary. But it does more than that. Barbados' current trade policy and the trade initiatives which we are seeking to pursue to be able to diversify the economy of Barbados needs the university to help us to achieve that objective. And one of the things that has been identified, and I believe the Honourable Member for St. Michael North can speak with more detail on this, is one of the areas we are pursuing is the area of life sciences. And one of the things we want to be able to do is to be able to create products, develop niche products that we believe we can produce that can be accepted globally. But how do you get to a place where your population is able to create such products? You need a university. And so part of the plan is to be able to use the chemistry students, the science students in our university, and to be able to engage them in helping us to develop those products that we are going to be able to take and move them forward to be able to fulfill our trade initiatives and to be able to sustain the trade policy of Barbados. And the intellectual property surrounding these innovations are going to be important. And that's one of the reasons why work will be done on the issue of intellectual property to help us to be able to build capacity for our products using the skills of our university students. But in addition to the issue of life sciences, Barbados and CARICOM also have an economic partnership agreement with both the UK and the EU. And one of the things we were able to negotiate was market access for goods and services. In order to make good use of those market opportunities, you're going to need your university students to be able to build the skills that allow us to take advantage of these opportunities. So for example, and we've had a long journey, sir, in being able to develop a mutual recognition agreement, but we're close to the finalization of it. We've been able across the region to develop a potential MRA with the architects so that our architects can start to deliver services in Europe, services in the UK. The accounting profession already has that access. But again, where do our architects and our accountants come from? They come from our university institutions here in the region, and that's why building the scholarship is important. There are other areas that a university can assist us in building economic capacity, and that would be in the area of arbitration, where some of your legal brains now can be part of an arbitration program. You also have the medical tourism. And one, sir, that would be dear to my heart that I believe we have opportunity in the future is in the area of civil administration. Our CSME space requires that we have graduates that can help us strengthen the capacity of our governments to be able to transform this region and to position the peoples of this region to be able to earn in a very competitive environment. And what do I mean by that? One of the privileges that I have, sir, is when I'm representing Barbados, whether it is in Brussels or Geneva, where we engage the EU, where we engage the WTO. Then there is the UN, where a number of the foreign affairs professionals engage that space. When I get the privilege to be a part of that representation, so often sitting next to me or across from me would be a student that I went to school with at UE Cave Hill. And why are we there? We are there seeking to defend the policy space, the opportunities that governments have to be able to put things in place that help to strengthen our economy. To be able, for example, sir, to negotiate a fisheries agreement that allows this government to be able to provide incentives, to be able to put monies behind certain industries to allow us to build out a fishing industry, to allow us to be able to build out agriculture in the way that we would like, or digital economy or e-commerce. So often, I have the privilege of holding hands with other graduates from UE as we seek to negotiate and press for the conditions which are needed to enable this CARICOM space to work. so that we are able to say to the people of the region, not only does CARICOM work, but here are the opportunities that we've been able to secure because we've worked together negotiating in the trade space. And that is only possible because UE took the bold step to start the Masters in International Trade Policy program that allowed them to develop a set of officials who were working either in the public or private sectors to be skillful in the use of trade policy, to be able to craft out how can these small nations, amidst the myriads of rules that are there quite often to oppress us, how are we going to be able to create and navigate and negotiate for special and differential treatment that will allow us to do what we need to do to help our citizens to be able to succeed. And so I want to salute those students who even now are laboring in the field to do just that. Another thing that the university has allowed us to do is to produce professionals who not only engage in the trade policy space, but this region has been able to send significant persons to work in international agencies, to head up international agencies, whether you're talking about, with your permission, Mr. Speaker, Dr. George Allen, Dr. Charleston Braffett, people of that nature, who, because of the quality of their work and their scholarship so well recognized, that they are invited to head up institutions, international institutions. And what is it they're able to do when they're heading up these institutions? Sir, they're able to advocate on behalf of developing countries and advocate especially on behalf of small island developing states like the ones we have in CARICOM. And this is what scholarship can do. A university can transform a region because it can help a region to achieve its economic objectives by being able to help it to produce people who can function and to be able to produce products which can solve the problems which we face. And there's some challenges that are in our future. And this is where closer collaboration with the university is going to be important for us. We need them to work and sit with us to develop approaches, whether in terms of policy or solutions, in relation to the economic issues that face small island developing states. We need them to help us in relation to climate and building climate resilience and coming up, sir, with solutions. I'm very pleased to tell you that in the Ministry of Business, a young man was brought to my attention, and he has developed an approach to develop hurricane straps that he believes will work better at keeping the roof and the body of a house together. He's in the final stages of seeking to get it tested and approved. But where did this come from? This came because of the education which he pursued, and he was able to be supported by the educational system in this region that allowed him to believe sufficiently in himself that he could come up with a solution to improve hurricane straps in this region. And I want to wish him well in pursuing that, and I am trusting that when he has that completed, that this region will be able to lay a hold of this product and make a difference with it. Also in relation to environment, in relationship to education, Mr. Speaker, this region has been known for the quality of students it has been able to put out. Our students are admired in the United States for the quality of the education which they have. And they've brought credit to this region and to this nation because of it. But we must do one more thing, not just improve our education, but we must get our university to study what are the elements that help to make us successful in the delivery of education. I know we are in transition at the moment, but even that transition must be studied, because what we must be able to do is to put together, how do you go about transforming a developing nation? How do you transform education in small nations like Barbados and be able then to take those solutions and market them across the world to other developing countries that have similar problems. I want to put that on the table for consideration. The second thing, this government has embarked on the program Commitment for Results. But I believe that if we get the university to partner with us to study this program, and as we make adjustments and seek to see how it works and how best to deploy it, that we can evolve a method of implementation that would allow us to be able to take that expertise and work with others who have developed the initial system to be able to take this across the world to help other governments how to transform their civil service. Because the truth is, without an efficient, effective civil service, a society cannot transform. And therefore, we need the university to partner with us in making something like this happen. Sir, we are transforming this nation. And I want to publicly thank the university for the work that it has done. It has had some visionary leaders that have been able to partner with governments to come up with initiatives that can take Barbados and take CARICOM into the future. I strongly believe it can play an even greater role. It can help us build our economy by giving us talent that will allow us to pursue areas of business endeavor that can earn significantly for us. They can help us strengthen the society by helping us to produce stronger and a better cadre of civil servants who can help us with the transformation of this society. I believe, sir, that a university operating at the very highest level, striving to be a global player, can help Barbados and this region to write its name on world history's page, and to write it in such a way that our contribution will never be forgotten, and that small nations like ours will not be invisible to others, but people will recognize that we have talent, we have ability, and while we may only be 166 square miles, we are 300,000 strong, and we're able to make a mark in history for the benefit, not only as a credit to the generations who went before us and made sacrifices, but lay a foundation for the opportunity of the young generation coming along, that they can build and benefit from the brand and image which we build today through our partnership with the university. And I want to give my fullest support to this resolution and pledge our support in going forward in helping the university to achieve its very best. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member St. Michael South Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to give my support to this resolution. I see that the honourable member who led on this resolution and the Ministry of Finance continue to find innovative ways and instruments of giving support, even where the government may not have the liquid capital, but that we continue to ensure that even if it is in the form of a guarantee for the partial amount of this loan from the Caribbean Development Bank, that we are still backing up our national and Caribbean institutions. And I think that this kind of support is important. Now, I heard it mentioned by one of the earlier speakers that the University of the West Indies delivers world-class education. And I believe that that is true. I believe that the work that this government has done to make sure that we not only reinstate free tertiary education, but that we send a signal to young people that whether it's other tertiary institutions, whether it's SJPA or the Barbados Community College or other areas in endeavor, because sometimes I feel that people feel that the university is almost an intimidating institution in some regards. And I feel as if, regrettably, there's still some people who feel that this is the kind of place that only certain people go, and that is why I so emphatically support the intervention of my friend, the member for St. Michael South, because he reflected, and he may have noticed that I was transfixed during his intervention. I was listening very carefully because in many ways, I feel as if his growing up and mine, and perhaps that of the member for the city of Bridgetown and several others of us in here, and maybe yours, sir, but a little bit behind in terms of time. But I feel as if I could have been telling that story from Haggett Hall as he was telling it from the Pine. And in fact, those of us who know him by another name from the Pine, from going over there and watching football, I won't say what that name is because I don't want to out him in other stories that others might have. But that reality of being the only person from a village or from a neighborhood that went to university, of passing on the street and other people's families and other households feeling proud of you, that you were able to go to a university and to stay focused on your education, because the truth is that this matter is not just about going to UE, going to Cave Hill. It is that support that we got from our communities was also a sense of pride in staying focused on your education, on staying focused on understanding what you wanted to be, and pushing and pressing through to get there. I mean, in many ways, for our parents, it was a fight. Because sometimes the physical environment in which you grow up is not really conducive to the kind of life that you want to lead later. I mean, let's be real about it. Sometimes it is such a difficult place to be that literally when you are walking home from school, keep your head straight, do not look left, do not look right, keep walking. That is the kind of environment sometimes. And so it's not just about going to UE and getting a degree. And that's why the reinstatement of paying tuition fees, of free education, is also important that it was relevant for other tertiary institutions. And I think it is important that this government document and regularize and say exactly what are those programs of learning, because there are still some people who feel it is only UE or it is only BCC. And really, it is a commitment to the very act of staying focused on continuing to learn, whether that be at UE or SJPA or other kinds of tertiary institutions. But I think it's important that we make people aware of the kinds of, the varied programs that this government is supporting in response to a previous government that did not find these things important. And the honourable member whose intervention I just referenced also made a point about this notion of I think, therefore I am, and the very act of education being important. And that is not just for the edification of education, but it is also for being able to use it to earn. That is important. But more and more, I feel as if the very act of gaining knowledge, of applying knowledge, of speaking to each other, of hearing each other's ideas, that is almost becoming lost now. And so there is an extent to which the act of learning, no matter where it takes place, there is an extent to which the act of learning has value. The act of exchanging ideas has value. And you know, as we move around in our communities, in our constituencies, I recall having a conversation in 2016 with a young man from Bannisterland who since, sadly, has passed on. But a young man who had a lot of leadership in that community. And, you know, we were talking and he asked me, what you come here to do now? What is it that you, a fair question, what is the value that you expect to give to the government and the people of Barbados? So I started talking to him about what was wrong with the
Honourable, we come from a good place, Martinez Road. Continue.
Martindale's Road, and I said, I know you would know about such things, sir. But he asked that question, and I started talking about what was wrong with the economy and what was wrong, why it was not benefiting people the way that it should. And he started to talk to me about these issues of the value of the currency. Why the truth is that we had already had an internal devaluation because the purchasing power of his dollar was diminished. And sir, if you would allow me, because he has since deceased, if you would allow me to reference his name, Malo. The kind of knowledge and the perspective that he was able to share with those other young men, they had not targeted university education, or perhaps even BCC, but they would sit together and learn from each other. And in many ways, that spirit of knowledge sharing and learning and conversation is what that beacon on the hill represents. So it is not the fact that everybody will end up there. It is that we are a society that values learning, and that we understand that there are things that we are yet to understand. You know, I think it is important, sir, to be able to look foolish. It's important to be able to look foolish. You know why? You will never learn anything if you're not prepared to look foolish, because you will start out not knowing. In my first year at the University of the West Indies, they decided that they wanted women's football and that we must have inter-faculty football. Oh my goodness. Now, I am that person who always puts up my hand for anything that is about solidarity. Anything that is about putting a team together and moving to get something done, regrettably, sir, I will always put up my hand. And so I was able to learn to play football, to go on to, and I saw recently some of the other women from that team at a crop over event, and it was a nice reunion. But I was able to learn football with those women. I had to play on the left side. I didn't really have much of a left foot. But I had to be willing to look foolish because I didn't know. And I feel sometimes that we puff ourselves up so much in the things that we already know that we never break ourselves back down to be able to say, I don't know, let me learn, show me. And the young man who came to teach us how to play, and some of us ended up going on to play in other teams. The members in here are probably tired now of hearing me talk about all my football exploits. But it's the reason that the same member for St. Michael South and I are committed to the development of the sport in our communities and the development of sports broadly in our constituencies. But that act of being able to look foolish, the young man who taught us was from Haynesville and came to teach these, probably in his head, these little Yui girls how to run up behind a ball. And you know when anybody starts learning a game like football, everybody behind the ball, looking silly, everybody wants to score. I mean, it was a fiasco at the time. But I would not trade it for the world because I was happy to be in an environment where I didn't know, teach me. Remaining teachable is an important part of your own growth and development that I think is important for us to return to. So we see everybody now knows everything about everything. We are epidemiologists. And we are economists. And I'm not saying that that everybody doesn't have something to input or to contribute to a conversation. But sometimes it's important to step back and be still and receive information and then be in a position to apply and to share that information. And so I think that what the university represents, even for those who choose not to go, and I'll come to that in a while, is important. I think that the things that this project is set to deliver are also very practically very important. So that this issue of being able to integrate digitally into a global space, so that the university is always aware of what else is going on in the delivery of education and the administration of education. So that, for example, if a student goes to another university and spends some time abroad and comes back with an A or a B, the university doesn't then say, well, I don't know what to do with this A. I'm just going to automatically downgrade it to a C because I don't know what that A means in Peru or in Venezuela or in Spain. That is something that may sound trivial, but for many people, it makes a difference in terms of the category of degree with which you graduate. University students want to know that if they manage to go and do a semester abroad, or if they come from another space, that university is in a position to understand and to put in context what the grades that they got at that other institution mean. So that they don't hear kind of this glib reply, well, I don't know what an A is at the University of Merida. So, and if it sounds a little bit personal, sir, it might be because it is. I don't know what an A is in Venezuela. I don't know what that means. So when you get back here, I'm going to give you a C because I can't be bothered to understand. And what the hope is that once the university is able to better integrate with other academic institutions, that is able to understand, to get some perspective on what is happening in other spaces and what these grading systems look like and how they're delivered and what they mean here. The issue of being able to access transcripts, being able to digitally access your records, to see, to be able to share transcripts with other universities. I know there are university students who will say that they had to wait, and this is probably more in my time, which is some time ago, but that they had to wait weeks and months to be able to get into another program because they couldn't very easily access their own records and access their transcripts to be able to pass on to another institution, to be able to move on with their studies. These kinds of things sound like bureaucracy, they're administrative, but they make a difference. Sometimes we don't realize how being late with something, how somebody not being able to access their records affects their lives materially. I see it in the healthcare system all the time, and that's why I will be happy for the day when people's medical records are also at their fingertips. So that if I need to go somewhere else and get access to a test or access to another level of care, that I can take my medical records and say, this is what it says. I know of people in this jurisdiction and others who were not able to access care that was not available here or in their country, but was available elsewhere, because their records were not available in a timely way. It affects people's lives. And so I'm hopeful that these digitalization and digitization efforts will be able to make that material difference in people's lives. But being integrated as a university into the community and into the global environment means several things. And I do have to thank the Department of Economics at the University Cave Hill for the work that they've done with this government. I think that the government of Barbados has had a good relationship, the Ministry of Finance, Economic Affairs and Investment has had a good relationship with the department in being able to help us work through certain questions. I think of our work with the Population Commission and Salises being a key part of that, and other areas of work looking at prices and incomes and so on. So this work is important. But I think that the business of how we teach economics is also critical. And being able to change what we teach that economics is also critical. In 2004, I had the privilege of being able to work with Salises on this question of rethinking economics and being able to offer different kinds of courses. The study of economics is about the provisioning of goods and services to people. It is about provisioning to people. That means that if you cannot be clear on how different groups of people are benefiting or not benefiting, what you are doing is useless. If you cannot be clear on how people are benefiting, different groups, women, men, children, people with disabilities, if you cannot be clear on how your economic policies are delivering for them, they are useless. And so I think back to when, and I know my colleagues at the university will forgive me telling this story, but I think back to 2004 to 2006 when we ran that project, where we were trying to get the department to liberalize its thinking of what economics is, and to make sure it's responsive to people. It's not just about numbers. And we sought to get some work done on gender and macroeconomics. And a lot of what we got back from the department of that day was regression analysis, econometrics. Because there was this notion that the field of economics is about numbers and is about getting things to balance. Well, we know what happened with a former Minister of Finance whose only focus was getting something to balance. He was going to deliver a balanced budget, and zero was in fact all he was able to deliver. It shows you that that is not the question here. And I would really love to see the university be able to work with the government of Barbados so that the economists that come out of the University of the West Indies understand that this is about people. The reason that I studied economics was to help people, not to get a good F statistic in my regression analysis. And I want to encourage the honourable members for Christchurch East Central and the Honourable Prime Minister in their engagement with the Department of Economics to make sure that what we get out of there is really about how people will be able to benefit. To make sure, and I hope it is still on the cards, that we are able to standardize the government economic service that sets a standard for what practitioners in the area do. Because it bothers me that we have this area of economics called development economics, as if it is not all about development, as if it is not all about people. And so the member for Christchurch East Central can consider this a challenge to strengthen his partnership with our colleagues in the Department of Economics to make sure that we are not just measuring macro variables and we don't understand what this means for people being able to live and work and eat in this country. Because I do think that we can do more to make what we teach young people about economics more responsive to the environment in which they live. But I want to say also, sir, that the resolution before us really is just a small part of a comprehensive level of investment in education in this country that sometimes I don't think people understand. Because of the nature of how we do our work, we bring bill after bill, resolution after resolution, and sometimes people tend to take things in isolation. But one really has to take these things all together. The level of investment is not just at the level of tertiary, at the level of nursery, and everything in between. But it's also in those areas that one might not consider strictly education. This country has had a school meals program for decades. Yesterday, a colleague shared some research that he had been doing with me on that he developed to address the unwillingness of certain countries to invest in school feeding programs. And he shared it in part to be able to get a perspective from a country that had for so long been feeding children as an input to education. Imagine that in 2022, there are countries, there are people who do not understand that a child who is not well fed cannot learn. And further, when we now launch the summer nutrition program, which is not about feeding children who are in school, but what is it about? It is about making sure that these children remain in a position that when they return to school or even in their own communities, they can function, they can engage, because learning does not only happen in a classroom. If I go on the Gully Hill Pastor or in Valerie, no. The number of children that are out there, they are learning something. And so this program that seeks to deliver summer feeding and learning and summer camps and access to education means that not only during the summer program, when they're engaging in the different ways, but when they come back in the classroom, that they're in a place where they're able to learn. And why is that? Because the question of being well-nourished is not one that comes up every day, today. If over an 8-week period, over a 10-week period, a child is not being well-nourished, when that child comes back to the classroom, there are all kinds of things that you're going to have to deal with. I feel that we forget that during those years of a child's life, the nourishment, food is not about just about keeping the child alive. Food and nourishment are also about how that child's brain develops, how that child's body develops, being able to be in a position where they are receptive to learning. And so all over the world today, people are trying to figure out how to keep this kind of program going. And here in Barbados, we are in a debate about whether something is a soup kitchen. I find it highly embarrassing. Highly embarrassing. And it smacks of the kind of remark that somebody would make who is only an observer of what poverty is, who is only somebody who is standing on the outside and theorizing about what poverty is, but not really understanding the poor that you are seeking to serve. Because somebody who is hungry wants to eat. And if we make it so that the acts or the business of being fed need not have attached to it any kind of analysis, it is about being fed. And so, for those who would stand on the outside as if they have tickets to a show, as if poor people are some kind of interesting National Geographic curiosity, I would encourage them to visit one of the programs in the constituency that they would seek to represent. And to understand that to the extent that we just present this as something that we are offering, if you are interested, come. If you're not interested, don't come. When I went to Belmont Primary, sir, my mother used to try her best to give us lunch. And I talk all the time about one of my favorite school meals workers who I adore to this day and who was a part of my learning and education at that school. But I remember that at that time, those school meals workers, if you took school meals today, if you didn't take it tomorrow, if you need it today, if you didn't need it tomorrow, it didn't matter. It don't matter. That's how the program is set up. And that is the way that we have been able to entrench access to social protection and access to social services, because I may need something today and not need it tomorrow, or I may not need it today. That's why it's called a net. I think the member for the city of Bridgetown wanted to call it a basin or something. But that's why it's called a net. It's meant to catch you when you need it. You may not always, but the point is to have it available to people who may be finding difficulty. And so when I think about the breadth of the investment in education, I also think about the school monitors. You know, I recall under the last government that the wages and salaries bill was used in very unfortunate ways. And that government at the time sought to fix a temporary problem with a permanent solution. And what do I mean by that? They brought into the public service in a permanent way all of these new positions and all of these new posts that they were trying to use to fix a problem that they had caused because they did not have the foresight or the wherewithal to understand how to be able to address the debt and deficit issue. And the truth is that one has to be innovative about how you use the public purse and how you use taxpayer dollars. And so one of the things that this government is still perfecting but was able to introduce is a series of temporary categories of work that allow people to work, allow higher numbers of people to work, but are also helping to transition those people into other areas of work, whether it be entrepreneurship or other areas in the public service. The point is that some of these temporary categories of work, like the school monitors, were not just about getting people employed, which is important, but also filling real need in the community. And I don't know how other members have received feedback on the school monitor position, but I'll tell you this, that at the schools in St. Michael South Central, the feedback that I have gotten is that this is the kind of role that has really allowed us to open up what we offer in the schools and what we offer as education. Because school monitors have now evolved into being able to support teachers in all kinds of ways that they find meaningful. And so the way that we used these kinds of roles, yes, to be able to allow people to earn in a context where we needed help with COVID, we needed help with sanitizing. But we weren't just filling roles willy-nilly in order to give people a salary and in order to fulfill certain political targets, which is what the previous government did. But what we were able to do was to complete the investment in education, to say, look, our investment in education is not just about subsidized early childhood education. It's not just about free primary and secondary and tertiary education. It's also about filling gaps where gaps arise. When I think about the Construction Gateway Program, and the Honourable Member for St. Philip West must be tired hearing me ask about it, talk about it, congratulate the government on it, because well delivered, it is going to be critical to being able to fill some of those gaps. We talk about this issue of micro-credentialing, which is just a big word to say, giving people qualifications in a shorter period of time. Not everybody who desires, is interested in, or will even benefit from a 3 or 4 year degree. That's a fact. And if we can find a way to teach people for 6, 8, 14, 16 weeks to do something that will earn them an income, that is an important investment in education, because I know there are some who will say, on reflecting on this resolution here today, not everybody wants to go to UE. That is true. But we're not just investing in UE. We're investing in a full range of educational support, from summer camps to the Construction Gateway to school monitors to assist teachers so that teachers can then be free to deliver what they were put there to deliver. That is the full range of investment in education. I don't have time, and I'm sure the Honourable Member for St. Philip West will come in with others. I don't have time to go through all. But I want us to consider the full range of investment in education that this government has committed to. But I go further to caution us not to neglect other areas of investment in education. Because we always say that the question of culture, and we are in the season of crop over, which I hear from the member for St. Michael South is the best time of the year, and I concur. Mango season, crop over, perfect storm. But there are some who would feel as if or suggest that this notion of culture is about crop over. This notion of culture is about parties and festivals, and that is an important part of allowing our people to express themselves. But the business of culture is about how we learn about ourselves, evolve ourselves as a society in a non-formal way. That's what culture is. Culture is what happens on the pastor when there are no teachers there, or where there's no summer camp or summer camp going home and the children are still running about. All of that is culture. What people learn, what people share outside of a classroom setting. I know that the National Transformation Initiative is meant to deliver in some of those areas, but that is also structured. And I think that we and government cannot lead every conversation. I know that I'm going to have cause to say that several times in this honorable place. Government cannot lead every conversation. But I think that this question of evolving who we are has to be a part of our education conversation. Because I feel as if we are losing the grip. I feel as if understanding what it means to be a Barbados that is a republic, what it means to have a national dress in a Barbados as a republic, what it means to say something is formal or casual. This place is hot. I live in the Caribbean, right? And I think that all of the trappings of how we express formality has to resonate with who we are as descendants of people who were formerly enslaved. Mr. Speaker, some of the things that I am called on to do to show that I am in a formal environment does not sit well with my spirit, because my ancestors were never called on to do it. I learned which fork and which spoon, but some of my ancestors ate with their hands. And there's some scenarios in which, sir, if you leave here and you go to other countries and environments, the formal expression is sitting on a floor and eating with your hands. So yes, let's teach our young people to be able to fit in everywhere, but further and more importantly, let us teach our young people what is the sense of appropriateness that is going to sit well with who we are as a Barbados, as a Caribbean people. I hear conversations about etiquette, and what is etiquette? But a very superficial expression of what seems proper. So yes, let's teach people which fork, please. That's important, because when the member for St. Michael Northwest goes to one of his UN meetings again, he will have to express himself in that way. That's important. But let us not believe that that is the only way to express formality or to have a sense of occasion. Let us please have a competition or invite ideas about what is a national dress for Barbados, about what it means to say that an event is elegantly casual. And if you show up in something that does not have a label with Balenciaga or whatever else, if you show up in something like that, that does not look appropriate in the style that we have become accustomed to in the post-colonial Barbados, if it doesn't look appropriate, then it is wrong. Let me tell you what is the damage from that. The damage from that, sir, is that our young people feel they have to leave home who they are and perform when they go out. But here's the thing about performance. If you forget the choreography, you're in trouble. So because they cannot internalize this sense of appropriateness, when they go out, they cannot express fully who they are. We sometimes go into business spaces, sir, and we hear the person who is delivering the service to us. We hear 2 seconds before they were speaking in a certain way to their colleague. They turn around And they speak in this very performative way to us. And when they turn back around, we can still see them and engage with them. Because they're not speaking directly to us, they're speaking in this perhaps less appropriate way to their colleague. Why is that? Because they're performing. We have taught that there's a certain kind of etiquette, a certain kind of performance that is proper. And what that means is that people can't really benefit from whatever we're teaching them. They do not internalize and understand and own this idea of appropriateness such that they can make decisions every day, all the time.
Your Honourable has 2 more minutes.
And that is the tragedy of not having a real conversation on the cultural aspects of who we are. And I think that that is the next frontier. Now, I am not suggesting that government has to lead every conversation on that, but the conversation has to be had. The final thing I will say, sir, as I wrap up, is that these conversations, these issues, when it comes to digitalization and access and the kinds of things that are going to make education accessible, also have to take into account what we want that education to be able to do. How is it that education is supposed to serve us? It is supposed to serve us in ways that allow us to benefit from learning. It's supposed to serve us in ways that allow us to earn. But it also has to be readily accessible and readily available in order for it to have value. We keep saying as something that people just say, justice delayed is justice denied. And it's almost become something that, a bit of a mantra that people have gotten used to hearing. It is true, but that's true in many other things. So service delayed or a slow response, having something there physically, but not in a way that all kinds of people can access it, means that it doesn't really have the value that one thinks it has. And so I am hopeful from this program that the university is not just able to deliver to students in a timely way that makes it valuable to them, but is also able to continue to integrate into the international community, to bring real value to the work that we do, and to bring real value to the questions that we are trying to answer. And so I support this resolution, not just in its support to the University of the West Indies, but I support the resolution as an example of the tremendous breadth and depth of investment in education that this government is continuing, with the only caution that we have to make sure that the cultural expressions of who we are match the kind of global citizen that we're trying to create. Sir, I'm obliged to you.
Honourable Member for St. Philip West.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you, and I wish to add my voice of support to this resolution to guarantee the loan, a portion of the loan from the Caribbean Development Bank for the University of the West Indies to meet its regional obligations as it relates to digital transformation. And sir, I am very happy and very proud that Barbados is part of the University of the West Indies family, we all as an entire region, as it is a university that has set itself up as its vision to be an excellent global university rooted in the Caribbean. It is the values of the Caribbean that the University of the West Indies is seeking to take global. It is our understanding of who we are, as you would have heard referred to earlier by some of my other colleagues, who we are as Caribbean people, that the University of the West Indies is seeking to take global as it is expanding now its educational reach across the world and doing so with a level of excellence that is gaining it recognition at the top ratings around, in the top rankings around the world. Now, this particular loan, which we are seeking to guarantee, sir, it speaks specifically to digital transformation, and the University of the West Indies does indeed have a digital transformation agenda. Now, sir, I am sure that you know that this loan and the work that has to be done on this project is happening in a particular environment and context when the university and universities globally are facing several types of challenges, sir. I am sure that you know that there is now the high cost to operate a university. And of course, this particular loan from the CDB is helping to contribute to the University of the West Indies managing its operating costs in such a way that it lowers that cost to people. While this loan on the surface seems to be about helping the university to do transformation, it is that too, sir. But more fundamentally, when we look at what it will do for people, we are recognizing that we, the people of the Caribbean, are going to benefit. And it is in that context that I want to look at what we are supporting when we guarantee this loan. We are, sir, looking at how we are going to enhance the institution's global competitiveness. And what does that mean? It means that out there in the world, people have choices. People from the Caribbean have choices to be at the University of the West Indies, and we have choices to be elsewhere. Persons from elsewhere in the world have choices to go to school, go to university in their respective areas, and they have choices to come to the Caribbean. And if we are to ensure that when we graduate students, those students receive the value that they have, of time they have invested, and that their credentials are recognized internationally and respected so they can command what is deserving from compensation, we have to make sure that the programs our university is putting out, that the quality of instruction, the quality of research, that all the outputs of the university are indeed of world-class standard. That is where our people benefit, because when you graduate from the University of the West Indies, it means something, not only in the region, but it means something in the world. Sir, we have said that we want to ensure that we upgrade the information and communication technology through the project that's funded by this loan. Sir, you would know that around the world, information and communications technology is transforming everything, education included. The University of the West Indies has started its movement towards becoming more sophisticated in its information and communications technology. Again, the benefit to people being, one, that they're able to communicate easier. Two, that they're able to get more information. Three, that they're able to access services. Four, that they're able to access classes and courses. There are a number of benefits that will come from us ensuring that the University of the West Indies is indeed improving its technology. Now, you know, sir, that online courses and e-learning in general has increased significantly. There was a projection, sir, that between the year 2018 and the year 2024, that there would be a 7.5 to 10.5% increase globally in e-learning. We are about halfway in that, and we are seeing that that trend is actually not only going to bear itself out, but there are those who say that we are going to exceed that. What is happening is that if the University of the West Indies is not moving at the pace of the rest of the world, we are going to be left behind. And we have already started to see the work that the university is doing with its open campus and its online learning, we are beginning to see some gains in that particular area. And of course, we want to continue to support that. You will see, sir, that this loan, which we are seeking to guarantee, part of which we are seeking to guarantee as a government, will also speak to the training. Many people will tell you that the University of the West Indies is still in many ways a traditional university run in the traditional way with very outdated processes. And part of that is the technology, but the truth is it's not that the technology doesn't exist. It is that the processes that people are very much a part of have not been brought up to speed, and the people themselves may not be comfortable in making that transition. And so the work that we are supporting here in terms of the training and the building of capacity of people who work within UE, so that they themselves can bring about the change that is necessary. Sir, this is part of what we are supporting with this loan. We speak about the digitization of courses and online courses, and we are beginning to see a greater uptick in that area as it relates to the University of the West Indies. You heard my colleague earlier speak about the fact that with our government having restored the payment of fees for students, that this has in fact increased the role. I heard from the university as recently as this morning, particularly the one here in Barbados, we still have excess capacity in some of those programs. There are some programs, as you know, for example, those programs that relate to medical sciences and becoming a doctor. There are some of those programs that, you know, the accreditation body has put a cap on, so you can only have so many because they don't want to flood the Caribbean with doctors. But there are many other programs, sir, that has excess capacity, and we are encouraging those persons who may have thought not to go to university where they're capable because they could not afford it. This is now an opportunity for them to be able to fill those numbers that we still have not yet fully been able to meet since the restoration of that tuition. Sir, this university has had, not the University of the West Indies, has had some funding challenges. That is not a surprise at all. Governments mainly, because it has relied mainly on governments over the years for its funding. It is time, though, that in funding we look towards other sources. Of course, you have the contributions of governments. You have the monies that will be generated by the university itself through its research, commercializing its research, being able to use its intellectual property for licenses and patents, and being able to monetize those and make them make money for them. We have the support that is being given to by the private sector. We have persons, rich persons, who are, when they pass, they're able to bestow some monies on the university, endow the university in that regard. And what we are calling on is for further support from the private sector who offers specialized types of services, will need specially trained persons. Wait not for governments to be able to fund that for them, but perhaps they themselves can start investing in paying for the education of that specialist talent, so that that talent can then be brought back into their private organization to the extent that is possible. So the funding options are significant. And while I'm speaking about the funding options, I want to, and that is this funding option for the institution, I want to talk now about some things we are doing here in Barbados in terms of funding options for individuals. One example is the Student Revolving Loan Fund. And the Student Revolving Loan Fund is about to go through quite an exciting transition and transformation over the next while, once the Cabinet has settled on the matter and determined how best they will go forward. But I will say right now, there are a number of persons in our constituencies, and mine in particular, who as recently as last Saturday was in there speaking to me in St. Philip West about funding for a young man who went overseas on a particular scholarship, a sporting scholarship, was able to cover the first part of the scholarship through that sporting scholarship, but now needs to complete the rest of it and is trying to figure out how will I pay for the rest of it because the scholarship part is now over. Now there are options that are out there that might not have been out there before through the student revolving loan. And I want to take the time, sir, to share some of the innovations. Many of us know the standard product that was out there. You go for a student loan, the student has responsibility for that loan, the student then has to pay that loan. If the student studies overseas, they have to come back and they're bonded by it, etc. But the student revolving loan has recognized that it needs to meet more needs than the ones it has traditionally been meeting. And there are some new products. We have a situation where you have students who at the time they're applying for college or university, they're not yet 18 years old. There's an opportunity now within the student revolving loan fund, in fact it will be emerging shortly, whereby you can have a parent plus loan, where the parent can now be able to apply for that loan. That was not so before. And there is the opportunity, if that parent can also afford to do so without surety, without having to put up anything, that becomes an easier process. You also have another product, which is the top-up loan. It is for those persons who are already an existing borrower from the Student Revolving Loan Fund, but they want to push their studies further beyond that amount and that particular course of study that they had started with. Now they can top up that loan, come back and top up that loan so they can continue and go further. That was not a product option that was there before. You also have special loans now that are targeting healthcare workers, health workers, and that are targeting back to school. Again, that was not a type of loan that you were accustomed to hearing coming from the Student Revolving Loan Fund, but that is part of them being able to be more responsive to the customers. And of course, you have digital transformation loans, which some people have already started to access, where you're able to purchase computers and other things. So I'm saying to you, it is not just important how we fund education at the institutional level, but we are certainly investing effort in how we fund education at the individual level and to broaden the options that are out there in the Barbados landscape to be able to better suit the needs of families. Sir, earlier, I heard a number of my colleagues refer to different programs that we are already doing within the education sector here in Barbados. And while not all relate directly to tertiary education in the specific resolution here, I'm going to take the time in a little bit, sir, with your permission, just to touch on a couple of them before we move forward. But one of the things I want to talk about is our expanding our capacity in post-secondary education in this country. If I can share with you, sir, would it surprise you to know that in 2017, of the 3,903 applicants we had to the Barbados Community College, 61% could not be accepted? And that also, that in 2021, of the 4,381 applications we had to the Barbados Community College, 68% could not be enrolled. Now, that is part of a trend that if we looked at the years in between 2017 to 2021, we will see a trend of applications going up, but the percentage that could actually qualify and be taken into the community college, that too, that percentage of those not enrolled, who could not be accepted into enrollment, that too is coming up. And what that speaks to in our system are two things, or a number of things. Some of it is capacity. There are some of the programs that are being oversubscribed. Number of persons are interested. You have the Jean and Norma Holder Hospitality Institute. You have the Health Sciences. You have the Division of Commerce. Those are areas where we're often getting oversubscription. However, and a significant part of that too is the quality of the qualifications of the applicants. And this is where a significant part of the work we have to do in this country must come, because it means that a significant number of those applicants are not meeting the qualification standards to get into the community college. And that speaks to all of the educational work that we must do before students get to the level of applying, whether it's to the community college or to whichever post-secondary educational institution. It is the work we have to do at the nursery, at the primary, and the secondary level to make sure that the quality outcomes we are getting for these students and with those students, to make sure that they're adequate for them to be able to qualify to get into the institutions. And so, sir, as you look at the numbers, you see that the ambition of our young people to get into post-secondary education, it is definitely there. It is not always that we either have the capacity or that they have the qualifying criteria with which to get in. And those are aspects of our educational system that must become part of our consideration for reform. Having spoken about the digital transformation agenda of UE and about how we might deal with funding at both the institutional and the personal level, as well as some of the concerns we have now in terms of articulation into our secondary systems, we are now working to ensure that when you go to one institution in Barbados, say you go to the Samuel Jackman Prescott Polytechnic, but then you want to move over to the Barbados Community College, we are working to make sure that you're able to articulate, that you're able to move from one to the other with less hassle than some have had to experience before. There are memoranda of understanding that have been signed with the two institutions that make it easier for those transitions to be made in agricultural study courses and in nursing and in other specific areas of study. But we are still having challenges for some matriculating from other post-secondary institutions into others. And we are working with the accreditation, we are working with ensuring that there are memoranda of understanding where we know that the programs are sufficiently aligned that students can now transition and articulate from one to the other without the level of hassle that they have had to deal with before. So we recognize, sir, that even within our own system, there are some structures and some strictures in there that are hampering people's ability to move from one to the other, and we are seeking to smooth those out as part of our national effort to make education accessible to all at different levels. Now, sir, I could not leave here without speaking to some of the programs, particularly the SUN program, the Summer Nutrition Program that I've heard raised by some of my colleagues. And I want to say that I had the fortunate experience yesterday of not only going to Hinesbury, but to going to other places and being able to communicate with persons who were a part of this. And it's interesting that many people are focusing on some aspects of it, who is going and why they're going, and is it part of their economic circumstance. You know, it was interesting talking to a young boy, and the reason why he was going wasn't because there was any specific and wonderful reason other than he wanted to go with his friend and make other friends. For some people, there is need. For others, it is an opportunity for them to be able to build community and relationship with their own peers in a different environment and to engage in a different kind of activity. There were a number of students who signed up for the SUN program who were not originally going to be part of the camp program. And we said, well, why not just join the camps? So it also has become a way for us to feed persons into the more structured, supervised activity, all their activity of the camps as well. We have had parents who came with their children, to show them where to go and to be a part, and remained at the SUN program and volunteered to help in other activities. So we're building that volunteerism and that sense of community where we're all part of that community, helping everyone to do better. And so we yesterday, and we will continue to get feedback from the young people about the new menus that we're putting out there. Our school meals department has been experimenting not only with brand new recipes, but with reworking old recipes like macaroni pie and others, and doing so in a more healthy way. And we are taking the feedback on the spot from those participants of the SUN program in an effort to ensure that we can improve and do things differently and do things better, so that when we do release the new menu in the new school year, we will have done so with the feedback of those who will indeed benefit. So there is much that is happening. This program is emerging in ways we had not even anticipated. We have other camps that are not government camps that have approached us to partner with us and say, well, we're providing this aspect. Are you able to partner with us in supporting the food aspects of things for their camps? And we have been able, therefore, to broaden the catchment of persons. I am told, based on the information I received this morning, that we had registered one amount, and the number of registrations since yesterday increased by close to 200 of people who came and registered on the spot or who registered after the program had already started. So we will continue to monitor, and we will continue to see that education, it crosses all aspects of what we do. It crosses what we do physically, it crosses what we put into our bodies, it crosses what we put into our minds. And we are continuing to expand the kinds of activities that are part of that. Sir, I know my time is coming to an end at this point in time, and I just wanted to reiterate my support for the work that continues to be done by the University of the West Indies, the digital transformation that is very much the core of what this loan will help this university to do, and with a full understanding that digital transformation is the only way that we are going to be able to remain competitive, to serve our customers better, to improve the efficiency, and to ensure that the University of the West Indies regionally continues to be a strength and a source of pride for us globally in the education industry. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Honourable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the House until 2:30 p.m.
The question is that this Honourable Chairman be suspended until 2 p.m. 2:30 p.m. All those in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. This Honourable Chairman stands suspended until 2:30 p.m.